Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. If you follow basketball, you know Chilltown Hoops.
So this is really good right here. Yo, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls all over the world. Y'all know what time it is when you see me. Chilltown Hoops is in effect. I'm gonna let you guys file in here, but I can honestly say and I literally just got a text message from my man, and I gotta respond to this really quickly. I do. I literally just saw this message. And I gotta respond to my man. This was right before I went on live. Literally right before I went on live. And it was too late, so I gotta respond to that, and I will. I 100% will get back to my man Tony Tone. I ended up getting online, and I didn't see the text until I just got finished exercising, and I didn't see the text until I got back in, and by that point it was already time to get going. So anyway, yo, have you ever done something and when you did it, you was like, I got this right. I nailed it. Now, don't get me wrong, when you do something, in order for this to work, you need for some things to go your way, no doubt about that. But ultimately, right? Ultimately, you got it right. You showed up on time, you had the right tools, whether you're cooking something, you had the right ingredients, when you were putting something together, it all just came together. Right? It all just came together, and you needed it to come together in order for this to work. And that's exactly what happened yesterday with the NBA. That's not sort of kind of what happened with the NBA. That's exactly what happened with the NBA. With the lineup that they had, they needed some things to come together, like those tools you got, like all the ingredients you had. They needed some things to come together, and it did. They needed Wemby to show out, and he did against a major media market like the New York Knicks. He didn't get on the big stage and go to pieces. No, he got busy. So this is a game that we can market. Not only is this a game we can market, this is a guy that we can market in the future. This is a guy that we can market in the future. Kristaps Porzingis ends up getting hurt. No Drew Holiday. Okay, fine. The Boston Celtics you still get a great game. You still get Jason Tatum. You still get Drew Holiday. You still get Jaylen Brown, right? You still get those two guys. In the process of getting those two guys, you get Joel Embiid, and you get Tyrese Maxey, and you get a great ball game yesterday. Philly almost sold it. But they almost blew it. But you get a great game. You get Kyrie Irving going for almost 40. Right? So you get Kyrie Irving going for almost 40, which now makes this Dallas team even more attractive because it was on Christmas. Even though Luka got hurt, they've been winning without Luka. Kyrie Irving being the popular guy he is and the fanfare. You know, Kyrie Irving was behind LeBron James at Nike in terms of sales. They love Kyrie Irving. The skateboard kids love him. Absolutely love him. And they tune into games too. They tune into games. And then you get the then you get the primetime game between Steph and James, which for all intents and purposes, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm over Steph and James. I'm over those two guys. I am. And I'm over those two guys, not because to hell with them. No. I'm not I'm not over those two guys like to hell with them. No, I'm not thinking that. I'm over those two guys like it's time to usher in the new talent. It's time to move on from these two guys. It's time to do that. It's time to showcase Anthony Edwards like you did yesterday. It's time to showcase Wemby. It's time to showcase it's time to showcase the younger talent. It's time to do that. And again, I'm not saying F Steph Curry. I'm not saying F James. No, I'm not saying that at all. And the reason why I'm not saying that is because I'm still a big time Steph Curry fan. I'm still a big time LeBron James fan. Anybody knows me knows how much I love LeBron James. Anybody, what's up, Frank? Anybody who knows me knows how much I love LeBron James. However, it's time to move on. It's time to move on from these guys. It's time to move on from KD. Right? It's time to move on from these guys. No, O2. I just don't think he's as good as you think he is. That's all. That doesn't mean I don't love him. I just don't think he's as good as you think he is. You think that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't think he's that good. That doesn't mean I don't love him. That doesn't mean I don't love his game. No, you just think that he's better than I do. I don't think he's that good. So you stop the cap. You kill that, because I'm not saying that at all. So anyway, when I watched Kyrie Irving yesterday, and I watched that Dallas team, and I watched how Minnesota let them back in the game because Dallas sped the game up. That's Kyrie Irving at his best. That's Kyrie Irving showcasing himself at his best. And that's what, especially on the biggest stage, because remember, it's on Christmas Day. This is basketball at its finest on Christmas Day. The NBA wants to see that. 100% they do. Kyrie Irving gets busy. Anthony Edwards is on the ropes, but he won't let his team die. Nope, won't let his team die. Even though Julius Randle was the only one to go to the stripe yesterday in the fourth quarter. None of them other dudes went to the free throw line. They scored 15 points. And I know how I feel about, I already know how I feel about Minnesota's offense. But that was a damn good game yesterday. And again, we get the primetime game between both James and Curry, and it was almost like turning back the clock. It was almost like turning back the clock and seeing what was on Christmas when they did it in 2017, right? It was almost like that. Now, when you have Phoenix and like I just said, I'm past Curry and James. I feel like it's time to move on from those two guys. I also feel like it's time to move on from KD too. If you have the best player in the league, in my estimation, right? What's up, Timothy? How you doing, brother? If you have the best player in the league, in my estimation, in Joker playing on Christmas, he got the late game. I probably would have moved him. Closer to prime time. I may have swapped him out with the Dallas Minnesota game. I probably would have swapped those two guys out. But the only thing I think the NBA got wrong, the only thing, and I feel like they aced this test. I do. I feel like they knocked it down. I feel like they did a great job, right? I feel like they did a great job in I feel like they did a great job in marketing. I feel like they did a great job in pushing it forward. The only thing I think that they got wrong, Giannis should have been on Christmas. You can't have the best player in the league and arguably the best player in the league on Christmas too. And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Right? Don't get me wrong. The schedule doesn't come out until August. Right? The schedule doesn't come out until August. So you can't predict injuries. You can't predict player availability. We don't know whether or not guys are going to be available. But when you got the best player in the league in Joker, and you got arguably the best player in the league in Giannis, those two guys, before we talking about anybody, before we talking about James, before we talking about Curry, before we talking about Luka, before we talking about anybody, the two best players in the league need to be showcased. And I think that's the only thing that they got wrong. The only thing that they got. I think they did everything else right. And when we're talking about the NBA, what we also have to remember, those games that they had slated, those guys got to deliver. This could go the other way completely. Like you need to get lucky. You 100% need to get lucky. What happens yesterday if the Knicks smoke San Antonio by 30 and Wemby sucks. This looks really bad. We might have got this wrong. What happens if Dallas, because Minnesota was blowing Dallas out. They were down by 23 at one point, 21 to start the fourth quarter. They end up coming back. We in addition to booking these games, we also got to hope that you guys do your jobs too. You guys have to do your job and give us a good game. You have to do your job. So Dallas coming back after being down 21, that's great for ratings. Fantastic. Teams down 21 going into the fourth quarter, and now here we are. Right now, here we are in the fourth quarter. We got a dogfight. We got a 2-possession game with a little under 2 minutes left. Jason Tatum, who is a top 5 player, goes for 32 and 15. Joel Embiid plays yesterday, which he didn't play last year on Christmas when they played against Miami. He did not play last year. So he actually plays this year, and Maxey puts on the show that he puts on. I'll say that to say that when you book these games, you're booking these games hoping for good games. And this thing could be a disaster if these don't turn out to be good games, but they turned out to be really good games. The only gripe that I have is yesterday, Giannis should have been on TV. Giannis 100% should have been on Christmas Day, because again, we're talking about Joker being the best player in the league in my estimation. And Giannis, I thought Giannis is the second best player, but the fact that there's now been conversations about Giannis being like the gap is closing, what does that do for ratings if Milwaukee goes up against Denver on Christmas? So now the gap between these guys is closing, and Christmas is coming up where we're going to see this matchup. What is that going to do for ratings? And now you're going to need a good game like you got from the Knicks and San Antonio. You're going to need one of those. You're going to need a good game like you got from Dallas and Minnesota. You're going to need that. But you set it up, right? You set it up with the 2 best players in the league, just like you did when you had Cleveland and the Lakers on, when you had James and Brian on. Just like when you had James in Miami and you had Miami go out to Los Angeles to play against the Lakers. Just like you had the Lakers play against the Spurs with Duncan and Shaq. It's interesting that I don't think Minnesota was ever on TV on Christmas. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think that Kevin Garnett ever played on Christmas. You guys can fact check me on that, but I'm almost certain that Kevin Garnett never played on Christmas, and I think that the NBA did drop the ball with that when he was in Minnesota. That's not to say when he was in Boston, but when he was in Minnesota, I don't think he ever played on Christmas. This is the league MVP, by the way. And I know that the schedule comes out in August, so you can't determine how good a team is going to be. I thought Cleveland was going to be a top 3 seed in the East. I had them as the 3rd seed. Did I have them with the best record in the NBA? No, I didn't. No, I did not. I did not have. I did not have. I did not have Cleveland with the best record in the league. With Cleveland, I thought Oklahoma City was going to be as good as they are. I'm surprised they weren't on Christmas. I'm really surprised that Cleveland didn't end up playing on Christmas. That surprised me. Really surprised me. But with that being said, right? With that being said, I think the NBA did a great job. But you do need to, I've said this to you, just like winning a championship, just having good players, that's not enough. No, that's not enough. You need some things to go your way. And the fact that those games were great yesterday, that really helped. I mean, ratings were up yesterday for these 5 games. This was the best the NBA has had in ratings in 5 years. Ratings were up 84%. 84%. Now, don't get me wrong. The NFL is still king. And I won't argue that. The NFL is still king. But Christmas, that's the NBA's day. I'm on record saying this, and I will say it, and I will say it until I'm blue in the face. I will say it until I'm blue in the face. The NFL owns a day of the week, and they own that day of the week for 7 months out of the year: September, October, November, December, January, February. I'm sorry, 6 months out of the year. They own a day of the week. That's Sunday. The NBA doesn't play games on Sunday until after 6 o'clock. Very rarely will the NBA play a game on Sunday at 12 o'clock or at 2 o'clock. More times than not, on Sunday, the NBA is playing during football season. During football season, they're playing after 5 o'clock. After 5 o'clock, they're playing. Excuse me. On championship weekend, in fact, not just championship weekend, throughout the course of the playoffs, the NBA doesn't play until after 5 o'clock. Championship weekend, the NFC, both the AFC and the NFC championship, the NBA plays earlier in the day. They don't play that night. Because both of those games, the NFC and the AFC championship, both of those games, I think the AFC championship is at I think the NFC championship is at 4 o'clock, and the NFC championship is later. The NBA plays later on in the day, and on Super Bowl Sunday, the NBA doesn't play after 3 o'clock. There's no games, none. So with that being said, the NFL is still king. Christmas is NBA Day though. And you guys have no business here on Christmas unless it's a Sunday. You have no business here. None. That was some bullshit yesterday from the NFL. That was a big brother coming into your room when you have company and you throwing a great party. That was your big brother coming into your room and knocking over some of the things to try to ruin the party. But they didn't, though. But they didn't. Because it's already king, OJ, or whatever your name is, O2. Because the NFL is already king. And I know that. You know that. The NFL gets more ratings than the NBA regardless. That's not true. That's I don't think that's up for question. What's up for question is why were they here on Christmas? What are you guys doing here in the middle of the week? There was no reason for you to be here. And I don't think you get that point. I think that you want the NFL. I think you want to argue. So if you want to argue, that's fine. You can argue that point. The point is that the NBA, Christmas has always been the NBA's day. And the fact that the NFL knows that. They know for a fact that it's the NBA's day. And they never play game. When have you ever seen the NFL play on a Wednesday? I don't ever remember the NFL playing on a Wednesday. And maybe you guys can fact check me on this. Fact check me on this. I'm not saying that I'm right, but fact check me on this. When has the NFL played on Wednesday? When do you ever remember the NFL playing on Wednesday? When? I don't ever remember the NFL playing on Wednesday. There was no reason for them to be there yesterday. None. There was no reason that the Kansas City Chiefs couldn't have played today. No reason that they couldn't have played today. There was no reason that Baltimore couldn't have played today and got the same ratings that they did yesterday. No reason for them to do that. None whatsoever. And if we're being honest, O2, no, they are not in competition. We all know that the NFL is king. No, they're not. This isn't a competition. The NBA Finals don't hold a candle to the Super Bowl. The NBA playoffs don't hold a candle to the NFL playoffs. So, no, there isn't a competition here. No, there is not. The NFL is king. And the NBA knows that, which would explain why they schedule their games, how they schedule their games. So if you just want to argue just to argue, that's fine. But if we're going to talk fact, let's talk fact. The NBA schedules their games the way that they schedule their games because they know NFL is king. That's why we don't play on Sunday before. That's why we don't play on Sunday before 5 o'clock regularly. That's why we don't have matinee games. That's why we don't have regular matinee games, especially big games. We don't do that. That's why we don't have a bunch of games like the NFL does. We don't do that. We don't. They weren't down yesterday, Santa Cruz. How about that? You want to talk about ratings being down? They weren't down yesterday. How about that? They were not down yesterday. You want to argue about NFL ratings being down? You can argue NBA ratings being down. You can argue that all you want. I bet you they wasn't down yesterday, though. And that's the point. That's the point. They weren't down yesterday. And it wasn't one game. It was 5 games yesterday. Go do your homework. But the NBA got it right yesterday. And they got it right collectively. They didn't just get it right with scheduling. Because I wasn't, to be honest with you, I had the Knicks smoke in San Antonio. I did. I had the Knicks destroying San Antonio. I did not have that game being a dogfight. And there are some people who, and I had this conversation yesterday that, I had this conversation today that, not Mikal Bridges, I'm sorry, OG Anunoby, he did a great job on Wemby late in the game. Wemby was out of gas at that point. Wemby at that point was out of gas. I mean, who was OG Anunoby dealing with for the majority of the game? Keldon Johnson? I mean, who was he? Who was he really having to deal with at that point? So now he's got fresh legs dealing with Wemby, leaning on Wemby, right? Dealing with Wemby. So of course he's going to wear Wemby down. Meanwhile, Wemby was having to lean on Cat for the majority of the afternoon, having to deal with Cat, and he bust Cat ass yesterday. Let's get that out in the open. I want to make sure that I'm 100% transparent on that. He did everything yesterday. Cracked the long ball, got on the glass. His defense isn't right. His defense isn't. And Santa Cruz, can one of y'all dudes tell me, like, what's your angle here, my man? Are you here to bash the NBA? What are you here for? Why are you here? Tell everybody why you're here. With the Joker. With the Joker avatar, can you tell everybody why you're here? What are you doing here, sir? That's all. That's what I want to know right now. Why are you here? What's up, Sarge? How you doing, brother? What's your motivation? Of all the people that are here, Santa Cruz, why are you here? That's what I would like to know. What are you doing here? I still haven't gotten a satisfactory answer on why you're here. They had great matchups yesterday. So those matchups turned out to be great. I thought that, if I'm being honest, I thought the Knicks were going to handle San Antonio. I did. And the NBA, again, as a collective, they ended up knocking this out the park because they got a great game out of both San Antonio and the Knicks. They got a great game. That Minnesota-Dallas game turned out to be a great game. And it could also be, it could also be a playoff preview, right? And it could also be a playoff preview. And that helps with ratings because Minnesota and Dallas, you can see them again throughout the course of the regular season. Right? You can see them throughout the course of the regular season, which is going to be good for ratings because this could be the buildup for the playoffs. Philly and Boston, I don't think that's a rivalry. I think Boston owns them. And the fact that Philly beat them yesterday, I was surprised. But we got a damn good game yesterday. I thought we got a good game. And absolutely when we talk about the primetime game between both James and we talk about the primetime game between both James and Curry, that could have went the other way. But James and Curry has been, even though Curry's not been good on Christmas throughout the course of his career, he was really good yesterday. And for them to get a buzzer beater, right? And for them to get a buzzer beater, that's great for the NBA. Because now the next time Golden State plays, right? The next time Golden State plays the Lakers, whether it's on TNT, whether it's on ESPN, people are going to tune in. And not just because it's Curry and James, but because of Curry and James, that's going to help. That's 100% going to help. I only watched half of the Dallas. I'm sorry, I only watched half of the Denver Phoenix game. I thought, and the reason why is because as much as I'm a Joker fan, and as much as I love Joker, the more I was watching that game, the more I was thinking that Giannis should be here. Giannis should have been here. Giannis should have been here. The more I was watching that, and it was pissing me off. The more I was watching that game, I was thinking to myself, Giannis should have been on TV today. The Milwaukee Bucks should have been on TV today. 100% they should have been on TV today. And that's not to say that KD isn't still great for the league. That's not to say that Steph Curry isn't still great for the league. That's not to say that James isn't still great for the league, because these guys are, for all intents and purposes, they still are ambassadors. In addition to them still being great, they're still ambassadors. And no doubt about it, when I see James, I know he's box office. But when you have a player like Giannis, and on a day like Christmas, which, if we're being honest, Christmas is the NBA's day. And it's always been the NBA's day. That's why they have 5 straight games on Christmas. 5 straight. They don't do that any other time during the season. They don't do that any other time during the season. Where it's 5 straight games. Bop, 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 bop. They don't do that. Nationally televised games, 5 straight. And they all were on ABC and the ESPN network, all of them. So that's a great time to showcase Giannis. A great time to do that. Giannis, because you're already showcasing Joker. That's a great time to showcase Giannis. A great time to put your talent to the forefront. I think that's a great time for that. Now, don't get me wrong, right? Don't get me wrong. What up, Fox? Don't get me wrong. I do understand that there's plenty of people who want to see Oklahoma City, and for all intents and purposes, with the exception of the in-season tournament championship game, I don't know if you guys know this, but Oklahoma City wasn't scheduled to be on national TV for like another month. I think they only had 9 national TV games this year. Something ridiculous like that. I went over that before the season started. That there were a couple of teams where I'm trying to figure out why are the Clippers on national television more than Oklahoma City? I said that before the season started. What are the Clippers doing on national television more than Oklahoma City? And don't give me this bullshit about Oklahoma City being in Oklahoma City. I had said that. I had said that before the season started. There was a bunch of teams that I had ran down, and I think Oklahoma City had something ridiculous. Like, I think they got something ridiculous like 9. I got to go back and check my numbers, but I think Oklahoma City has something ridiculous. Like, I think they got less than 20 nationally televised games. I'm confident that they do, and I think Orlando has less than 15 nationally televised games. Now, again, I understand, right? I understand when the schedule comes out what you're looking at. No, I didn't think Cleveland would be this good. No, I didn't. Cleveland's not getting on national television before the Celtics. Cleveland is not getting on national television on Christmas before the Knicks. They're not getting on national television before Denver. They're not getting on national television before Luka or James or KD. They're not getting on national television before those guys. Off the strength that we didn't know that they were going to be that good. And the star power in Donovan Mitchell doesn't trump the star power of Curry, James, or KD. It doesn't trump those guys, unfortunately. It doesn't. But when you find out that these guys are that good, you can't flex games, but you can now see, all right, I have to start doing some forward thinking. I know Oklahoma City's going to be good. I know that Cleveland's going to be good. And they got some really good young talent over there. This kid Darius Garland is a player. This kid Evan Mobley is a player. I want to broadcast these guys. I want to showcase these guys. No doubt about that. So, I thought the NBA got it right, man. I did. I thought that they got it right with the help of course, with the help of those teams, because this could have been a disaster. I'm not saying that this was something that could have gone like meh. No, this could have been a disaster yesterday. This could have been a complete and utter disaster. The Knicks could have stomped San Antonio, which I thought that's what they were going to do, by the way. I thought that they were going to stomp San Antonio. I didn't think they were going to beat them. I thought they were going to stomp them. And Wemby not playing good, like that throws a monkey. I think that sets the tone for the rest of the day. But instead, right? But instead, Wemby and San Antonio, they come out and they get busy. And Mikal Bridges gets busy. And that Knicks team looks great. Now that sets the tone for the rest of the day. For the rest of the day, that sets the tone now. So now, what we're looking at moving forward, can you top this? Well, we get somebody to top that. Why? Because now we see Dallas and Minnesota. Dallas comes back from being down 21 in the fourth quarter to make this a dogfight. And Kyrie Irving is now put on display. And it's great for the game. I don't think it's good for the game. I think it's great for the game. Can you top that? Sure. Enter Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid going up against the defending NBA champs, who we all know are going to be on Christmas. We all know that. We all know that they're going to be on Christmas Day. If you don't think that I don't ever remember the defending NBA champs not playing on Christmas Day. I don't think that's ever happened. Since they've been playing games like this on Christmas, and I remember it from a long time ago when Bernard King put 60 on the Nets on Christmas, to Larry Bird going 30 and 20, almost 30 and 20 on Christmas. The defending champ, the NBA champ has always been on Christmas. That's never been a question. But then you get the Celtics and the Sixers, where Caleb Martin goes for 33, and that game turns out to be fantastic. And now you tell James, and now you tell Curry, okay, you're up. Can you top that? Only except they top it. And they do top it. Because you get a buzzer beater, and you get James going for 30 plus, and you get Curry almost hitting a buzzer beater. And you get Curry almost hitting a buzzer beater, and them losing at the buzzer. So then when you have that, man, now you telling Joker and KD, can you top that? And the tone was set at 12 o'clock when the Knicks and San Antonio went up. That's when the tone was set. After that, it just became this and this, and it just got better. Unfortunately, and I'll be lying to you if I said I did, because I did not. I did not watch the Denver Phoenix game in its entirety. I didn't. because the more I was watching it, the more I was thinking to myself, where is Giannis? He should have been here today. You screwed up. Giannis should have been here today. With all of these great games, all of these great matchups, Giannis should have been here today. And he wasn't. And I think that you dropped the. And I don't think that they. When I say I don't think that they dropped the ball, I think that's the only thing that they got wrong. Everything else was great. Everything. There's nothing else that I can argue about the NBA yesterday except Giannis should have been there. That was it. But I want to hear from you guys. Did the NBA get it right yesterday? Did they do the right thing? And how did they get it right? What up?
What's up, Chill?
What up?
I definitely feel like they got it right. I feel like they might have messed up like a couple of things. I feel like they definitely should have gotten the Spurs on there because I think that at least, and this is me, of course, this is not you, obviously, this is me. I feel like they got to get on a new face of the NBA. And I feel like they want to push Ant-Man on us. And I feel like he could be that guy. He's overly skilled. He's athletic. He's fun, right? But he's not the top dog yet, right? But he's getting there. I just feel like he's got to win. And until he wins, I don't think he could be the top dog. You know, it's going to be James still because Jokic is the top player, right? And it's probably Jokic and Giannis. Those are the top two dogs.
We've had faces of the league. We've had faces of the league not win, but the build up to them winning was the reason why they were becoming the face of the league. Jordan hadn't won yet, but it was obvious that they were moving toward Jordan being the face of the league.
Yes.
You know,
yes, sir.
Guys like Olajuwon, it was a big man league. Shaq hadn't won yet when Jordan retired. They were moving toward Shaq being the face of the league.
Mm-hmm.
Bryant hadn't won yet. They were pushing him forward. Now you can push guys forward to be the face of the league and them not be the face of the league and them not win yet. And I think that's what the buildup is for the NBA. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of these guys, like when you talk about Ant, when you talk about LaMelo Ball, a lot of these younger guys,
they're fun, man. They're exciting and fun.
They're 100% fun. I won't argue that, but we got to get them some etiquette classes. We got to teach them how to talk in front of the microphone because
probably me too. Yeah,
a lot of that has to do with being the face of the league. When you turn on the NBA, and Magic Johnson is the face of the league. Okay, this is the NBA. Okay, when you turn on the NBA, Anthony Edwards, a dude with his sweatpants halfway up his ass, and a hoodie on with flip flops. That's the NBA.
He's exciting though. That's what I'll 100%. Say about it. But you're right about it. He's not exactly this like proper dude, and like that's part of it, I guess.
100% it is. It's not just about your game; it's your image
Jokic
too.
Is boring to me. I'm sorry. I think Jokic is the top player, right? He's not fun to me to watch. He's just not exciting. I've always liked Bron. That's just me. I feel like Bron is exciting. He dunks the ball. He does everything. So when I see Jokic playing, I'm like, okay, he's like Tim Duncan to me. He's like the white Duncan.
But the difference, Frank, is with Duncan not being exciting, he still was one of the faces of the league because there was a rivalry there between him and the Lakers. So you were able to connect in that way. Yeah. Same thing with the Knicks. Sure, they were in a big media market, and as fantastic as Ewing was, I mean, there was a rivalry there between him and the Bulls. Where's the rivalry between Joker
it's not
and
there anymore?
Right. So that's why you can't really relate to Joker like that. I mean, he hardly plays against Joel Embiid. How many times have I seen him play against Giannis on national television? How many times have you seen him?
I mean, maybe like twice, maybe. That's really it.
I maybe can count on one hand. I'm not sure how many. So good to talk to you, Frank. I appreciate you, brother.
Yes.
Yep. What up?
Yo, what up? What up, Jim?
What up?
Yo, what up? Yeah, I think I disagree that about the NFL taking over the NBA on Christmas. I enjoyed watching both the NFL and the NBA, and I think that the NFL and NBA they should like come together to where like you can watch all the games without missing something. Because I wouldn't mind like next Christmas watching Mahomes versus Allen first, and then later that night watching Jokic versus Giannis. So yeah, I disagreed about that. I think they should work together so we can watch them both on one day.
But football has already been king, and football will always be king. So I don't think that there's competition when it comes to both the NFL and the NBA. That's and I mentioned this earlier, where there's a reason why the NBA schedules their games the way that they do on Sunday, because the NFL owns a day of the week. We all know that. I don't think that that's news. From September to February, we all know that the NFL owns a day of the week. That's 6 months out of the year. So the NBA schedules their games in accordance to how the NFL is being run. There's a reason why they don't schedule games on Super Bowl Sunday after 6 o'clock. There's a reason why on championship weekend with both the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship, they schedule their games around that game. They don't schedule their games during that game because football is king, and we all know that. But on Christmas, those 5 straight games from 12 o'clock. I mean, we're talking what, 10 hours from 12 o'clock to 10 o'clock. It's basketball. It's basketball. You know that with pro football, you have your day. You could have played those 2 games you talked about yesterday with Kansas City and Pittsburgh, and was it Kansas City and Pittsburgh? I want to make sure I get it right. I think it was Kansas City and Pittsburgh. But
Yeah, it was Kansas City, Pittsburgh.
Kansas City and Baltimore and Houston, you could have played that today and wouldn't have missed a beat. In fact, you probably would have gotten even more ratings if you played that today than you did yesterday. There was no reason for you to come to Christmas. You've never played on Christmas Day, ever. Not Christmas Day, let me rephrase that. You've never played on a Wednesday. I don't ever remember in all my years of watching football, and I've been watching football since 1979. I don't ever remember the NFL playing on Wednesday, ever. I don't ever remember that. What were you guys doing here? There was no reason for you to be here. None.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad they did because watching that Chiefs game, because I'm a Mahomes fan too. So watching him win, that kind of it made my day go better because when the Celtics played, they pissed me off watching them lose that game. So I'm glad I got to see Mahomes and them win before watching the Celtics lose. So I think that's just me.
How much better would your day have gone if the Celtics lose, but then you get to see Patrick Mahomes tonight win? By the way, ain't nothing else going on.
So you saying the Celtics lose yesterday and then I get to watch Mahomes play tonight?
Now you get to see Mahomes tonight.
Nah, I would rather it be the same day.
I'm good. I don't think that I'm straight. Good to talk to you though, brother.
Yeah, man. You have a good one.
What up?
Sure, you hear me?
Yes, sir. What's going on, brother?
What's up, man? What's up?
Yeah,
I think the NBA, in terms of the game we played yesterday, just a couple of things before we get to it. I think Christmas is like real big and it's important for like European audiences. It's really the only time we see games during the day. For most people, a lot have not seen games played at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Most of the time, it comes at like 3:30 in the morning. Sorry. So Christmas is like a big NBA because it's really the only time where people who don't see it much to see it live. And I think for the most part, they did well. I will say this, that I think they should, to me, I would prefer like a Christmas Day where they kind of almost like a match, like a fight, kind of like, you know, how they book fight. Like, for example, it'd be Jokic, yes, and is, Luka, or maybe Luka versus Jokic, like put the guys that you want to see, new guys in the league. Still keep LeBron and Steph, because I think there's like with LeBron and Steph, you have kind of history of them playing in the 5 straight years, and Christmas Day from 26. I think they played each other like times now on Christmas, so that you have that kind of history. But to build up the league, to me, you have to build those history kind of games like Wemby. The Knicks have to play on Christmas because they're a big market. I feel like that's the case. But give me a Jokic on Christmas, where the league is going and who you're trying to promote. Put them on prime time. Maybe this game after them. Maybe put Giannis and Jokic at, I don't know, 5 o'clock. Whatever. That game be showcased. I feel like that's the one thing that they do. That I feel the LeBron and Steph game, they have so much backstory between them that they really hone into it. They did the documentary on ESPN before, and they really into it. But then with other like, they're okay. They were good games, don't get me wrong, but I'm talking
Mhm.
about in terms of individual matchups where you're looking at this player versus there isn't that kind of backstory, which I think sometimes takes away from it. Because I feel like the NBA kind of has leaned away from rivalries with teams and with players. I think with like maybe and he was much more into, didn't actually care if these players liked each other at that point. He
Hey,
wanted to see that.
Amari, you going in and out. You wanna retool and hit me back and see if I can get back with you because you're going in and out. Yeah, I'll see if I can get back with him. Malik, my man, nobody's arguing that the NFL is not king. Nobody is arguing that. We all know that. That's not the fucking point. The point is why are you here on our day? That's the point. We all know that you can get the ratings. That's not a question of whether or not you can get ratings. We all know that. Whether they play on Wednesday, whether they play on Tuesday, they already own a day of the week. We already know that. The question is this is our day. Why are you here? What are you doing here? There is no reason for you to be here today. You've never played on Wednesday, ever. I don't ever remember. And again, I'm a big-time football fan. I'm a 49er fan. Those are my guys. I don't ever remember the NFL playing on Wednesday. Never. I don't ever remember. I don't ever remember them playing on Wednesday. There's no reason for them to be here on that day. None. You could have played those two games tonight, and you still would have got the same ratings that you got yesterday. Matter of fact, you might have gotten even more. Because now the Knicks fan, the San Antonio fan, the Dallas fan, all of those fans from yesterday, the majority of them are going to come to your game. The majority of them are going to come to your game. So there's no reason for you to be here today. None. No reason for you to be here today. So my problem with what you're saying, Malik, is you make it sound like there's a competition. Nobody's arguing that there is. Nobody is. I'm not arguing that, and there's nobody who watches pro basketball. Nobody who's watching pro basketball will argue that there's a competition. The point is that there was no reason for you to be here yesterday. This was our day. There was no reason for you to be here. And the fact that you were bullied, that's some bullshit. That's sucker shit. My
Can you
man, you
hear me
back?
now? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
you hot. Yes, you hot.
Okay, cool. So yeah, what I was saying is my belief is that the NBA should do better with marketing the rivalries. Even if it's fake, make them. Like with the LeBron and Steph, because they played each other so much, they basically created a rivalry that everybody can buy into. So you almost, like LeBron and Steph really don't have many boring games.
They don't.
One of the best. You can
If you
all
think about
buy into it.
if you think about their Christmas games, like when they won the championship in 16 and they went against each other on 17,
Yeah.
when they had KD, and then when James moves to Los Angeles and they played him again on Christmas in 19. Yesterday was a great battle. So they've seen each other a lot on Christmas, and they've given us, they've definitely given us our money's worth. No doubt about that. The question is how much more do they have? Because to be honest with you, Mari, I'm out on Steph Curry and James in terms of moving forward with these guys. I think we've seen the best of them. I think it's time to move forward with some other guys.
We can move forward with other guys, but the problem is this is the issue that we as basketball fans, we know that these guys are kind of over. Whether or not the hill is crashed on top of them, but they're over the hill. I think is that you keep milking this draw of LeBron and Steph Curry, like to the point where they're no longer like. So every draw, like we see it with boxing, like with every draw, there's a point where the draw stops becoming one. And at a point, do we stop doing that with Steph and as like a unique thing, kind of when we need to, when the ratings up, maybe when the ratings are low or getting low, we can put on James Steph Curry game, put it on prime time. But to me, the problem with LeBron James or Steph Curry in prime time is that time is allotted for the best of the NBA, and they are no longer the best of the NBA. They are great representatives of the best of it, and this is the reason why I would have put a Jokic in a Giannis game, because number one and number two players in the league. and that is showing what they has to go in the current day, and maybe before them to show that is the one that's coming up apparent. I think the reason why they rely on LeBron is because they're the only that draw outside of the logo. So they're the only ones that, okay, we can get fans that don't watch basketball to watch a LeBron
So they're
game.
still the staple. We still can get this. So they're still of all the they're the most recognizable
Exactly.
of all the people. They're still the most recognizable. But I mean, that's how you build the league, though, Amari. You build the league with other young stars, where to your point, you start to create that rivalry. All right, let's see more. I mean, when's the last time you saw Joker and Giannis get it on national television?
And I was thinking, I don't remember in any kind of game where I've really seen those two really each other. I can't think of it. I can't think of a Jokic and Giannis that really comes to mind of like a state that they played against each other, because they don't play each other independently. And so we haven't matchup. So we really and truly you can only see that matchup twice a year. So this is why for me it's like lean on a Jokic and how many Jokic and Luka you can think of that you've seen that much?
Luka and Jokic, a few. I've seen them go at it a couple of years. I think it was last year when we had that national televised game when Kyrie Irving hit the buzzer beater with his weak hand. We did see that.
Yes, that was a great game.
Yep. Yeah,
But even then, look how much you have to think about it. Like they played each other 4 times. That game should all be on television.
Sure.
Televised game. So
sure.
I think the NBA did this year, but they are playing too much on old tricks. I will say that is what they are. They're doing on the old horses, and they're not correctly showcasing even little subtle things. Joey, just before I head, not putting the main comment, like the Phoenix game and the Denver game was afterwards. Even things like in the main commentary team on the second game is little kind of cue to where they have priorities. They're still looking at what their money versus what can make them money. And I think they knows partially as well that they're going to ratings decline as ability of LeBron James and Steph Curry's are starting to become less. So people who just watched those guys are starting to leave. So you have to start bringing it. So this is what happened after Jordan, and then it's happening now after LeBron. So it's just cyclical of the sport. It happened after Jordan left the rating decline. Shaq and Kobe, but there was understanding that people didn't like Shaq's style in a way, so it got in the viewers. It held, but it didn't hold it as much. LeBron and Steph are good.
Now remember too, Amari, when we talk about Shaq, it also helped because he was as good as he was as a player, even though his style wasn't for some people, he was so charismatic.
He was so marketable.
He was so marketable that it wasn't hard to put the camera on him. It was not hard to put the camera on him and keep it on him to draw people in. It was not hard at all.
And I think Shaq was a good face, because if you think about the most recognizable basketball player of the last 20th century, it is Shaq is in that conversation. Shaq and Jordan is probably the two names with Shaq and Magic and maybe Bird. If you speak to people on the street, that I don't know those players. So, and I also think one of the other issues is that there's no kind of taking that on as a personal thing. Whereas you could see Shaq was very much wanting to be the face. He wanted to be the Superman. He wanted to be everyman. There's no guy actively say he doesn't want it. Giannis has said he doesn't really want that pressure being the face. So we have to wait
Shaq welcomed that. Shaq was the most comfortable of all the guys that I've seen, especially big guys in particular. He was the most comfortable in his own skin. He wanted that. He embraced that, and he knew what came with it too.
He loved the people. People love Shaq. The biggest nice guy that you could have, but he was an animal on the court, which was the big kind of crazy thing. But how much not saying power has declined, but has changed, because growing up in the UK, one of the biggest stars that we had from as a foreign audience was Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard was huge overseas. Dwight Howard, Steve Nash, LeBron were all overseas, not saying AIDS. So I think to wait for that player to, you've got the foreign players, I think less than the American players, but the American players have to, quote unquote, be marketable. Like you said about LaMelo Ball and Edwards and maybe Ja.
Anthony Edwards. I mean, we got to get these guys some etiquette classes. We do, Amari, because I mean, again, we're talking about being the face of an organization, and you know, when you put a camera in front of them, you know, they have to they represent you.
Yeah.
And when you know every other word out of your mouth is mother this and N-word that and slipping up, and I mean that's not good for business.
No.
That's not good for business at all.
There's a reason why they're struggling on Steph, because look how even KD, they could, and even Kawhi. I mean, if you think about that 2018-19 season, the NBA was trying to shift itself over to Kawhi Leonard,
Sure.
market him as the face, not face, the new was actually the campaign, the new face of the NBA. Kawhi Leonard was trying to take that mantle. So I think you're right with the kind of get. But lastly, I'm just going to say, new faces in the NBA. NBA is going to be solid. I think he's going to hold up. Luke, they're in good hands. The question is now is the NBA recognize that they have, because they Zion as the next LeBron. In my opinion, he was elected Johnson. That's a different story. But they didn't pick the right horse, and now they've had to kind of move on from him. So
they got to move on from him, no doubt. Amari, good to talk to you, brother. Absolutely. I think that's been one of the problems with the NBA, where they, again, they've been picking guys, right? They've been picking guys to be the face. They've just been picking the wrong guys. And I think they have something with Anthony Edwards. I'm on record saying I think Anthony Edwards is going to be the best guard in the league within 5 years. I think he's going to be the best guard in the league, right? And because of that, you can market him. Good-looking guy, plays above the rim, great game, plays in Minnesota, which is not a huge media market, but we can make it that. Just like you can do the same thing with Oklahoma City. You could turn this into a bigger deal than what it is. You could 100% do that. So there's some rough edges with Anthony Edwards, and I'm pretty sure in 5 years he's gonna look back at his 22 or 23-year-old self and be like, wow, I thought I had it together, but I didn't. No, when he turns 28, 29, he's gonna look at himself like, nah, I thought I had it together. Yes, Friv. I'm not, unfortunately, unlike you, sir, I'm comfortable in my own skin that I can recognize a good-looking man and it not be what you think it is, because you're a kid. See, I'm comfortable in my own skin to be able to say that and it not be something else. But you're a kid, so that's how you see things. What up?
Yeah, man, loving this show. And I think to answer your question, yeah, I think they got it right. It was cool.
Sure.
But to improve the NBA, I think they should give the fans power. You know what I'm saying? Tap in more to the podcasters, do polls, just see what the fans think and really give them power. Make it like, all right, well, if we're gonna vote this guy into the All-Star game, let the fan vote be, I don't know, 50%. To your point about Cleveland and Milwaukee, what if it's contingent? What if the Christmas game is contingent on things like who wins the in-season tournament? And just like you said prior, rivalries or the best. You know how they always say, oh, when you look at the West and the East teams, the West, they'll in the season, they'll have, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 teams above 40 games, 45 wins. And you look at the East and it's not that. It's not as, it looked like the West is more competitive. So if that's the case, make the top team in the Pacific Division top team in the Atlantic Division. Just like make scenarios where, I mean, you might not see these teams in the finals, but you'll see them on the Christmas game. You'll see them, and they're competitive. Not like trash teams, but the number 2 seed in the West, the number 2 seed in the East. You feel what I'm saying? The number 3 seed in the East, the number 3 seed in the West. Make them play on Christmas to debate who's the better, the East or the West teams, and you know what I mean? Just kind of mix it up. Like you said, they're doing a lot of the same.
Boston and Memphis, I think that would have been a good watch.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that. But, I mean, to your point, Breezy, I mean, they did give the fans, in some instances, they did give the fans a lot of power. That's how you ended up with Grant Hill starting in the All-Star game when he only played 3 games. That's how you ended up with Penny Hardaway starting in the All-Star game when he only played 18 games. And they had to change that. But you still have to tap into what the people want. You do have to do that. That's not something that we can just disregard. We can't just. That's why we have All-Star weekend. So you can check people's temperature. They have to change. For example, the in-season tournament. And to your point about, if you win the in-season tournament, well, they do stuff like that now where, the NBA champ is on Christmas. You figured yesterday you had San Antonio and the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks was in the Knicks was in the semifinals they was in the first round last year. I'm sorry. But they were expected to be good this season. Then you got Dallas. Dallas was in the NBA finals last year. Minnesota was in the West finals last year. Philly and Boston, you got the NBA champion. And Joel Embiid, who's for all intents and purposes one of the best players in the league. Then you got Steph and James, right? So you got stuff like that going on, that kind of star power. And then you got the league MVP in Joker. I think they missed out on Giannis, but other than that, I think they got everything else right. I do.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, no, hell yeah. I just wanted to say that. That's all, man. I was loving the show, man. I hope the chat hitting the like button, man. All right.
Yes, sir. Good to talk to you. That's. I feel like that's more than. I feel like that's more of a marketing issue with the NBA than anything, and I think that creating those rivalries when you see these teams playing more against each other, I think it would create that. Now, do we need to see Milwaukee and Denver in the finals? Yes. That's how we'll see Joker and Giannis playing against each other more, because they only play against each other twice a year, with Denver being in the West and Milwaukee being in the East. But I do think that that's a game that needs to be showcased. I do think that those two guys need to be on the floor more. I do think that that's a game that 100% can be showcased. So, but the NBA did get it right yesterday. They did, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. The next major slate of games we got is on MLK Day. That's on January the 20th. That's in about a month or so. We got that coming up, and we'll see how those games. We'll see how those games play out. And this is during the dog days of the NBA season. So it's about that time for me, guys. I will see you guys soon. You know where to find me at. If I'm not here, I'm on TikTok 9 a.m. every morning. If I'm not there, I'm on a panel from 11 to 2. If I'm not there, I'm here weeknights. Me and my man Tony Tone on, as you can see, Fluent and Chill. Me and my man Tony Tone, we do it. And if I'm not here, I'm on Saturdays on Chill with Chill at 12 o'clock Eastern with my man Big Ox. So I'm not hard to find. I will see you guys soon. But until then, put on the suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother. Well, last time you talk to your mother, call your mother. I will talk to you guys soon. But until then, take it light. Take it. Absolutely, man. It was good to see you guys tonight.